Recently I've had to justify watching a lot of anime with generic premises, but we definitely won't have to do that today with the Ancient Magus Bride. I've been aware of the Ancient Magus Bride for quite a while. I saw one of my coworkers reading it back around 2015 and distinctly remembered the cover art. My coworker had reasonable taste as far as I was aware, but still, who would want to read a story about an Ancient Magus Bride? A story about the Ancient Magus himself? That sounds a little more appealing, but his bride? Who cares about her? Marrying someone interesting doesn't make you interesting. If anything, it sounds like one of those woke reimaginings of classic literature. Let's read about Hamlet from Ophelia's perspective. Because women want to make everything about themselves. I was worried that Chise, the female lead, was just going to be one of those useless tag-along characters while the Ancient Magus did all the heavy lifting himself. Perhaps she'd scream emotional support at him while he was getting beaten in a fight, and then the power of love would power him up. You know, one of those characters. But I was pleasantly surprised to see that despite her being inexperienced, Chise was far from powerless. That is, once you get past her dark and emo backstory and she starts training. You see, contrary to the title, Chise isn't the Ancient Magus' bride yet. She's mainly his apprentice, with the prospect of becoming his bride down the line. At this point, he's just grooming her, which I hear is all the rage in jolly old England, which is where the show is set. The show appears to be loosely based off traditional English fairy mythos, some of which I recognize from the Dresden Files. The show has a somewhat girly aesthetic. It's full of cats and dogs and fluffy things in general, sparkly, fantastical imagery, and a Beauty and the Beast fetish. I'd normally conclude this show is targeted at girls, but the last time I jumped to that conclusion, it was for Horimiya, which as a commenter pointed out, ran in a shonen magazine, so who knows anymore. As I said at the top, the Ancient Magus Bride is refreshingly unique. I'm not just talking about its well-constructed magical world. Perhaps the most impressive thing about this show is its flow. It never fell into a predictable pattern. The pace suddenly slows down and then picks up again out of nowhere. It never lets you get too comfortable, and I mean that in a good way. The series has some great music. Let's put it this way. Main does one of the two opening themes. That's MAY''N, the singing voice of Cheryl Nome from Macross Frontier, beloved by all. And the non-main opening is actually the better of the two. The manga is still running, so the possibility of a second season is very much still out there. A 3-episode OVA was released before the TV series and sort of acts as its prequel. Another 3-episode OVA will be coming out later this year, and I have to assume that'll be good too.